G'day, chaps. Is I, Clumpitcher139, and I'm gonna say something pretty controversial right now. I don't think Bane is an interesting villain. His whole reason for existence was to be the new big bad that Batman would never be able to take down on his own. He exists because comic writers needed to boost sales with a major threat. Did it work? Absolutely. I mean, look at Bane now, regarded as one of the best villains in the Knight's Rogues Gallery, despite being less than half as old as nearly every other Batman villain. The marketing certainly worked, because they were able to sell the most generic fill-in-the-blank villain in the entire gallery as one of the greatest. Bane is, quite simply, boring. He doesn't have a unique gimmick that sets him apart from all the other loonies in Gotham, aside from the fact that he is Bane. Joker is a mad clown set on causing as much destruction as possible because he finds it funny. Mr. Freeze is a disgruntled scientist trying to save his wife, who also just so happens to have ice powers. Poison Ivy has plant powers and wants to eradicate humanity because climate change. Scarecrow is all about fear and using it to control others to do his bidding. Bane is a strong guy who wants to kill Batman. He is stronger and smarter than anyone Batman has ever faced because the writers said so. He was able to overpower and defeat Batman, but not this random guy who was training under him for a bit because the writers said so. Bane's whole existence was to create tension on the cover of comic books, making readers wonder if Bat was gonna die. But as soon as he was defeated after that, his whole gimmick had run dry. And that has been reflected in every single major media appearance the character has made. Because, genuinely, what can you do with such a barren-based story for the character? You're gonna push Batman to his limits? Great, you get one story out of that, then nothing else that you ever write will compare because you've already exceeded the bounds of Batman's physicality. There has genuinely never been a great interpretation of the character in non-comic media. His first major appearance, Batman and Robin, literally just made him muscle and nothing else, and not even all that effective muscle to begin with. He was a complete idiot who didn't live up to the moniker of Bane in the slightest. Gotham didn't fare much better, giving us a character that certainly existed for all of 2 episodes that had the name Bane. And look, as much as I love Tom Hardy's Bane in The Dark Knight Rises, I can also acknowledge that it's really fucking stupid. On top of doing multiple layers of unnecessary race swapping, changing what was originally a Hispanic mobster to a League of Shadows member played by a Brit, he's just not Bane. He's a generic terrorist who could be swapped out with any number of other villains that hate Batman. Not a cold, calculating criminal whose only purpose being in Gotham is to break the Bat. Batman is tangential to Bane's plans in this movie, only serving as an obstacle in his way rather than the primary target motivating him the whole way. Even the animated series, a series known for taking even the most ridiculous concepts for villains and making them interesting, couldn't make Bane anything more than a generic muscle man. Now, that's not to say this episode is bad, far from it. It's genuinely the second best interpretation of the character. But it only just slightly touches on the themes that Bane as a character presents. And aside from a few key moments in the episode, like Batman breaking the Venom pump, this could be practically any other villain of the week. And this isn't just me pulling stuff out of my ass here. The team behind the animated series struggled to fit Bane into his own episode because they thought he was too gimmicky.
Bane had broken Batman's back in the books, right? So he smashed him over his leg and broken his back. And neither Bruce nor I was particularly enamored of that idea. We thought it was pretty stupid. So our Bane episode is a direct reaction against that.
And only reluctantly did so because of the pressure from the studio to get a modern comic tie-in to potentially boost sales. He was never meant to be here. hence why he only got a single episode in the original run of the series, before only appearing a single other time in the new Batman adventures. Because, seriously, what on earth are you supposed to do with a character that already went all out on his first endeavor? Make him go more all out?
You can't do this to me! I am invincible! I am Bane!
All of this changed, however, in 2013, with a little game by the name of Batman Arkham Origins. A game that has what I consider to be the only interesting version of Bane. Before we can talk about him, though, we need to talk about his less than stellar appearances in the other two games at the time.
No!
It's a pretty well-known fact that the Arkham series took nearly every character's inspiration from the animated series, though, to be fair, that's the baseline for pretty much every piece of Batman media nowadays, but I digress. And that, of course, included Bane, to a certain extent. Because unlike every other interpretation of the character, Arkham Asylum's Bane had faced Batman before. Bane is a character that really only works on his first encounter with Batman. His whole thing is being smarter and stronger than anyone Batman has ever faced before. Almost like a sudden wake-up call for Batman that he isn't as invincible as he thinks. Batman overcoming Bane is a monumental stepping stone, something that should never be taken lightly. It's why his first animated series episode, which was his first appearance outside of the comics, was also his best, despite still only being above average. Every encounter after that, though, yeah, not so much.
We had a deal.
Thought about it. Didn't work for me.
Because at that point, Bane had worn out his gimmick. He already figured out Batman's identity. He already tried and failed to break the bat. Bruce had already beaten him once. And when you're already as strong and smart as Bane is, how much higher can you really go? You're not gonna do much better than being on the brink of breaking the bat without actually succeeding. But if he does that, we have no story. And this is what Asylum and City showcased. This is year 10 Batman, one that has already beaten Bane multiple times over. He knows this man's tricks. He knows not to underestimate his strength. He knows very well how to deal with a threat like Bane. Consider the fact that Batman even acknowledges after he defeats Bane in Asylum that Bane was stronger than usual because he was juiced up on Titan rather than Venom.
Yes, I'm worried. Bane seemed even more powerful than usual.
And yet, he still defeated the man with absolute ease like it was just another Tuesday. Bane is not a threat at this point in time, because he completely wore his gimmick out. He's just another problem of the week that Batman needs to deal with because somebody forgot to lock his cell. And it's not like we can get a faithful comic adaptation with him actually breaking Batman in the game, because the whole point of the game is that we're playing as Batman. So unless you want to do another playable character for your Batman game, yeah, Batman is not going to be broken outside of the death screen.
The bat is broken!
WB Montreal understood this problem when making Arkham Origins. They understood how to use Bane's gimmick, while also being faithful to the original character. This right here is Bane in every sense of the word, while also actually being interesting and somehow not breaking Batman. And it's because of how he goes about breaking Batman compared to his other versions. Literally, every other Bane only takes breaking Batman literally. He's gonna fight the man, then break his back. Cool. Any other strong boy like Croc or Freeze could probably do that too if they got the jump on him. Where Origins Bane gets his edge, however, is that he isn't just talking about physical breaking. He's going to break Batman in every possible way. most notably, psychologically. Bane is part of the Assassin storyline. We get a small flash of him in the intro, but he's then waiting in the background until the midpoint of the game. But even from just this small flash, we get a perfect idea about who Bane is going to be in this game. This is not the same guy we knew from Arkham Asylum, starting first and foremost with his genius redesign. It's no shock that Asylum Bane was a travesty of character design. This is over-designing in every sense of the word, taking all the things we know about Bane and amplifying them to the nth degree because we all know that it's Bane. It looks ridiculously stupid, so in walks Arkham Origins, showing how Bane should be looking. Slimmed down to look like a really buffed up human rather than a non-green Hulk, wearing a badass heavy overcoat and thick boots that just barely reveals the venom tubes running underneath, and a glorious mask with super intimidating white highlights that amplify all of his expressions rather than hide them. And this scene immediately shows what kind of monster Bane is going to be. This montage shows us a bunch of other assassins showcasing their skills by killing a bunch of henchmen, all of which are very impressive, but Bane is by far the most intimidating. All the rest appeared to just be regular old guys like you'd find in the streets at night. Bane appears to be fighting 3 enforcers at once. Just look at how jacked they are compared to the other guys, and Bane still tramples over them nearly effortlessly, even snapping 2 of their necks simultaneously with a single hand each. These guys barely even flinch when Batman attacks them, and are going down in just a few blows from Bane, showing just how powerful this man is right out the gate. Bane then takes a back seat for most of the story, up until Joker summons all the assassins to a meeting at the Gotham Royal Hotel. Bane has spent his time in waiting, studying Batman, learning how he thinks, and is now ready to face him. So rather than waste time, energy, and resources hunting him down, he simply waits for Batman to come to him. He understands that the Joker has seriously pissed him off with all of these shenanigans, and was not subtle in the slightest with taking over the Royal, so he knows that Batman will be coming right to him. So he just waits, patiently, as Batman slowly makes his way up the towers, watching as his own men, who he personally trained, are taken out by the Bat he's been waiting to kill. That's not to say his men don't put up a fight, they absolutely do, and give Batman one of his most daunting challenges as he makes it closer and closer to Bane. The combat and predator section at the top of the hotel are 2 of the toughest in the game up until that point, because they use enemies and implement strategies that you hadn't seen much of prior to this, including arming the gargoyles to blow, the one place Batman feels safe to hide. When Batman clears the room and heads into the elevator to the penthouse, he thinks ahead, knowing that both the Joker and Bane are waiting for him. So he decides to use the emergency hatch above the elevator as a hiding place. I mean, the scene where Batman walks into the elevator even takes a moment to show off the hatch, so he's gotta have something big planned. And when the cutscene starts and we don't see Batman in the elevator, we think, oh yeah, he's got a plan. He'll get the jump on Bane and take him out easily, then move on to Joker. And then Bane pulls a pro gamer move. He's learned Batman's tactics already, knew he'd be in the service hatch, and doesn't even give him the time of day to be satisfied with his plan. He shoves his arm straight through the ceiling and rips Batman down, then throws him around the hallway like a rag doll, not even giving him a chance to retaliate before throwing him into the penthouse right at Joker's feet. He wasn't about to waste any time and was ready to kill Batman right then and there. But he made a deal with Joker to let him have some fun, so gives him exactly 1 minute.
You have 1 minute.
Joker goes on his spiel, blows up a building, and gets thrown around by Batman, but then like clockwork, as soon as Batman starts retaliating, Bane butts in and takes over the fight. And when I say that Bane is punctual, I mean it. He jumps in exactly 1 minute after the clock starts ticking for Joker. He may be a patient man, but he's been waiting for this moment for too long, and he is not about to pass it up for even a second longer than he has to. What follows is another brutal beatdown, where Bane doesn't let up for a second. He slams Batman into the ground so hard he's left disoriented long enough to be picked up and thrown out a window multiple stories into a room below. And then we get, without exaggeration, the single hardest fight in the entire Arkham series. This fight is just as much a battle of attrition for Batman as it is the player, putting every skill they've acquired to the test, slowly wearing them down until they barely manage to scrape by with a victory. A little detail that I love is that the music actually matches Bane's effort during the fight. Bane's theme is one of the best songs in the entire saga, but it doesn't actually start until Bane starts trying. Bane initially takes it easy on Batman, electing not to use his venom at the start of the fight, partially because of how easy it was to throw him around a few moments ago. And even still, Bane manages to put the pressure on Batman even when he isn't trying. And the music reflects this. It starts out with just his intro, with a simple repetition of a single horn and a light drum beat. This is not Bane trying his hardest. He's merely going through the motions he would go through in defeating any other foe, like those schmoes we saw in his intro cutscene. When Batman proves to be an adequate challenge, however, Bane drops the generosity and actually starts trying. He removes his overcoat to reveal the intricate tubing system he's had installed that runs venom through his body. And this is just so much cooler than the crazy pumps he had back in Asylum. Not only is it a more efficient system, it's also less prone to failure because it's harder for Batman to grab onto something. With venom running through his blood now, Bane actually starts trying. He is now immune to damage from Batman's attacks. The venom is so strong that he's able to shake off anything that Batman throws his way. And it's only when Batman disables the pumps and stops the flow of venom that he's able to actually attack Bane. But Bane doesn't let the small setback of losing venom flow affect him all that much. He staggers back a bit, but is then immediately right back to business, ready to cave Batman's face in. There is no downtime against Bane. He will always make his way over to Batman no matter how much damage he's taken and get ready to attack again. Bane is a nigh unstoppable force going against Batman, never letting up because he knows that if he gives his opponent an inch, he'll take a mile. So he literally never gives Batman that inch, always reactivating venom when it feels like he's losing momentum to regain it with his powerful shockwaves and Bane trains, the single most difficult to dodge move in the entire saga. And all of this is simply too much for Batman. And Alfred understood this before the fight even made it to the terrace.
I won't stand by and watch you kill yourself. I'm calling Captain Gordon.
He knew that Bruce was overwhelmed, so called Captain Gordon for backup, telling Bruce not to defeat Bane, but simply hold him off until Gordon arrived.
Gordon is on his way, sir. You have to hold Bane off until he arrives.
What makes the hotel fight so great to me is that Batman doesn't win it. While as players we technically reduce Bane's health bar all the way, in reality, this is just Batman surviving. We don't get a victory celebration for taking Bane down. Hell, technically we don't even take Bane down at all. When his health bar reaches its lowest point, he doesn't fall over defeated or cower in terror of losing the fight. Instead, he throws out one final gambit. He charges Batman with the longest Bane train of the fight, showing that even though we technically made it through that fight, Bane was not ready to fall over and accept defeat. He is still filled with rage, ready to slam the ground and charge again if he decided to. The fight doesn't end with some grand takedown animation and us beating down on Bane for all the trouble he caused us in the hotel. It ends with Bane getting the final attack and us needing to survive it. Batman was completely outmatched by Bane this entire fight, as we see during the closing cutscene. He isn't standing triumphantly over a defeated Bane, ready to take down Joker next. He's on his knees, about to be defeated, only making it out because the police were able to make their way to the roof and disrupt the fight. What I also find fascinating is that Bane doesn't solely rely on Venom for the entire fight. Hell, he started the fight deliberately not using Venom at all, something that gave him a clear advantage the second he whipped it out. And I think his restraint in this case really leans into both his strength and intelligence in a subtle but effective way. He was so confident that Batman would pose no challenge to a beast such as him that he was able to start the fight without the thing that made him so formidable. And to his credit, he does pretty damn good against Batman without it. His strength without Venom is nothing to be trifled with, and this fight, as well as the scuffle in the hall earlier, perfectly showed that. But he ultimately does end up pulling it out after seeing how well Batman is shown to be able to fight back. He starts the fight restraining himself, not giving it 100%. But as soon as it feels like he's at even the smallest of disadvantage, he immediately turns the tables on Batman and whips out Venom. This is the part that leads into his intelligence. Bane knows the side effects of Venom at this point in his life. He isn't going to use it if he doesn't have to, because he knows that it's a dangerous drug that he is already starting to become addicted to. That's one of the most fascinating parts of Origins Bane compared to all other versions to me. Practically every other version of Bane ends up relying on Venom to be a formidable opponent. The Venom then becomes an addiction that he relies on before even starting a fight with basic street thugs. The fight is then practically immediately won, and Bane is still juiced up. The stories very rarely go into the addictive properties of the drug, with how much Bane relies on it the more he uses it. And more often than not, it ends up being the reason he's defeated. Origins, however, uses it as the central reason that Bane holds back. In his extortion file, we hear how Bane is already struggling with his addiction and reliance on the drug. He admits that it, along with the tubing system, is a weakness that he needs to overcome. He also acknowledges that he sees Venom as a plague on the world and sought to eradicate all traces of it, along with anyone who produced it. He knows firsthand what Venom does to someone, and doesn't want to see it falling into the hands of someone who couldn't handle it. He was ready to give up on Venom entirely, but knew that he would need it to take down the Bat.
Once I've eliminated the Bat, I will dedicate myself to finding a suitable volunteer for my tests.
Which is exactly why he held back on using it until absolutely necessary. He knows that it makes him unstable, and that continued usage will only result in a brutal cycle of him using more and more and more until he eventually overdoses and loses his life. Which is exactly why he still plays the fight smart, even when he's backed into a corner. He doesn't activate the pumps immediately after Batman disables them. It's obvious that the initial burst of energy that Venom gives is much more potent than its lasting effects, as Bane is always at his most dangerous immediately upon starting up the pump. which likely means that if Bane were to activate the pump immediately upon losing flow, his body wouldn't know how to react to the sudden surge of power after just being taken down. Even though it puts him at a severe disadvantage against Batman to try fighting without Venom, he still does it because he knows that doing otherwise could be a death sentence. And while he absolutely wants to kill the Bat, he knows that he needs to not overdose and die in order to see it through. Which is why it's really crazy when he goes the other way at the end of the game. But we'll get to that later. One more important factor about Bane in this fight is that he knows when to cut his losses. While Venom is incredible and makes him nearly unstoppable to most foes, he also knows that he isn't bulletproof. One well-placed shot would absolutely be enough to take him down, and he is not going to risk that, even at the cost of temporarily letting Batman go. So he calls in his men to take out the choppers and get out of there before the heat is too much for them. He then pulls just the ultimate power move and attempts to shoot Joker with an RPG. This is the guy that hired you in the first place and was gonna pay you to kill the Bat. This just shows that he was never in it for the money. The 50 million never mattered to Bane like it did to all the others. The other assassins were all in it for the money, and maybe some of them for the glory, only agreeing to do the job because of that ridiculously high paycheck. But Bane? It would have just been a bonus for him. He was ready to kill Batman on his own time. Black Mask just made it more convenient for him by hiring 7 other idiots to fail. And nobody's gonna say no to $50 million. That is until the Joker reveal happened. At which point, it's pretty obvious that he lost all respect for his so-called employer and was plotting to kill him as soon as he was done with Batman. Obviously, there's no money even if someone does kill Batman. He only played along with Joker's shenanigans in the hotel because it made it easier to get to Batman. He still told his guys to kill the clown's men, even though they would be providing extra support in taking down Batman.
I see the Joker's men here have been eliminated. Good work. But remember, our primary objective is the Bat. We must remain vigilant.
It doesn't matter, because he's gonna kill the Payaso Loco immediately after he's fulfilled his goal. And seeing as now is as good a time as any, may as well just shoot him with a rocket and be done with it. All while this was going on, Batman was able to slap a tracker onto Bane's back, giving him a temporary advantage over the brute because he'll know where he's been hiding out. Like Bane, he does end up having to retreat and regroup, but after he's done so and activates the tracker, he knows exactly where Bane is going to be when he returns to the city. Bane was able to set up shop right inside the city. Despite only being there for a few days, he was able to mark out his own territory and set up a decently sized base with a lot of his men. As Batman infiltrates it, he has to plow through multiple squads of henchmen, slowly making his way towards Bane's approximate location. And despite losing to him just a few hours ago, Batman is fully ready to face Bane again. On his home turf, no less. But as he rounds the corner to the center of the facility, he finds the tracker with no Bane in sight. 'Cause, of course, Bane knew about the tracker. How stupid do you think he is, Bruce? Obviously, one of his multiple men in the chopper would see the bright flashing circle on his back and tell him about it. Batman wasn't exactly being subtle with it. So he's used it to his advantage to lure Batman to his place of work, but not in an attempt to fight him again. Oh no, instead to reveal his big find. Ironically, I think the least memorable thing about Bane in this game is what should be considered his most impressive feat. The fact that he was able to deduce Batman's identity. It's honestly crazy that such a monumental feat that was the jumping off point of the previous game is kinda just a small footnote in the list of Bane's accomplishments in this game. And it's not revealed with some big grand scene with Bane confronting Bruce again, ready to kill him. Bruce finds out Bane knows because Bane let him into his lair while he was hiding out somewhere else. Bane knew he was being tracked, so deliberately planted the tracker in a place that would make Bruce find out the truth. And how he found out is surprisingly simple.
You just ran out of time. You just ran out of time.
My guess is that he had a list of candidates, even a prime suspect who he was fairly certain must be the Bat, but he just needed proof. And it was Batman's slip of the tongue that confirmed his suspicion. That was all Bane needed to begin enacting his plan to truly break the Bat. I honestly love how this reveal is done. It's one of the few times I can think of in any piece of media that the hero's identity is unveiled and the villain isn't telling it directly to their face. Bane reveals that he knows Batman's identity by just showing him the evidence while he's off getting ready to make his plans with that new information. For all Bruce knows, Bane could be at the manor already. Alfred could already be in danger. His identity could already be public knowledge. That's how powerful Bane's new piece of information is, and he didn't even say it to the man's face. This whole section is psychological warfare for Batman, going down an alley that he doesn't see the exit of. Bane basically broke his mind. He was already multiple steps ahead of Batman the entire rest of the game, but with this new piece of information, he's basically doubled that advantage on the man. And while Batman is across the city dealing with Firefly, Bane sees this as his opportunity to truly start breaking the Bat. He breaks into the Batcave and destroys it, single-handedly, and I'm pretty sure without using Venom either. This results in most of Batman's systems being down, and Alfred left to die under tons of heavy rubble. He also could have killed him right then and there, but instead left just enough life in him for a final goodbye. He even waits for Batman to call to further taunt him and fuel his rage.
I am in your house, Bruce Wayne.
That one line is honestly more terrifying than anything pretty much any other villain has ever said. It's just a blatant statement of fact, but there is so much weight behind it. I know who you are. I know where you live. I know what you have been hiding from the world. I know who you value most, and you left them alone. I am already here, and you can't do anything to stop me. Genuinely one of the hardest lines in the entire series. And he's not even done talking. Bane doesn't treat this as revenge or some kind of ploy to get Batman home faster so that he can fight him. He simply does it to break Batman, killing the one person that truly matters to Bruce. And this is simultaneously a boon and a flaw that Bane has. Bane must break the Bat in every way feasibly possible. At the start of the game, when he didn't know Batman's identity, this would be rather simple. Just break him in a fight and end his life. You find peace, get paid for your services, and move on with your life developing a stable version of TN1, probably taking over the world. However, upon learning a critical piece of information about his target, Bane's plan shifts. He no longer wants to only physically break the Bat. He now knows of a way to mentally break him as well. On the one hand, this showcases his adaptability and ruthlessness, being able to come up with a new plan to further break the Bat than he initially intended. But on the other, it showcases his impulsivity and inability to back down, despite how risky the play might be. He had a solid plan brewing. His fight at the hotel showcases exactly what he's capable of, and had the police not gotten themselves involved and he had just a bit more time, Bane would have won. He would have broken the Bat. So why not just organize something and do it again? Why go through this elaborate plan to destroy his house, kill his mentor, lead him to Blackgate, and then fight him? Because he found a way to further break him. And where there's a way, Bane will see it through, no matter how much it might put his plan in jeopardy. Because nothing matters to him more than breaking Batman in as many ways as possible. And this irrational way of thinking and impulsive decision to go after Alfred that wasn't originally part of the plan is ultimately what led to his downfall. Ironically, in trying to further break Bruce, he actually fueled his resolve even more and turned him into an even better Batman. Almost losing Alfred is the final nail that pushes Bruce to being a better man. He now understands the power of allies and that working completely alone isn't going to work when taking down a threat that has him outmatched. And when Bane once again teams up with Joker to take over Blackgate, it only gives Bruce the resolve he needs to complete his character arc and take them down. Bruce, of course, fights his way through Blackgate, through one of the deadliest riots the prison will ever see, and eventually makes it to the Panopticon where the Joker and Bane are waiting for him. The two have concocted a truly mad scheme that seemingly has no way for Batman to get out of it without being broken. Joker is strapped into an electric chair, charged by a heart monitor strapped to Bane's chest. Batman and Bane are going to fight until someone dies.
You will fight me with all your resolve, or you will die. Someone is going to die. You, me, or the clown. The question of which one of us it is in your hands.
Either Bane kills Batman, finally breaking him, Joker dies of electrocution, meaning Batman failed to save a life, or Batman kills Bane, breaking his code and turning him from a vigilante to a murderer. And what's crazy about this confrontation is that it really feels like Bane doesn't care which outcome happens. He speaks of all possible deaths equally, implying that it truly doesn't matter which one happens as long as somebody dies. And that's another interesting twist on Bane's traditional mentality. When you think of breaking the Bat, you think of Bane's iconic backbreaker. In other words, Bane is literally breaking Batman in half. It's one of the few consistent details of his character across all lines of work. But Arkham Origins gave him another layer of breaking. If he can't break him physically, he'll break him mentally by killing his lifelong companion, and breaking his reputation by making him a killer. It's a fantastic twist on the traditional Bane formula that gives him layers. Frankly, more often than not, Bane's intelligence just doesn't come into play with his character. Sure, he's got good battle tactics and can set up an army to take over Gotham, but he just broke Batman's back and threw him in a pit. Sure, he's technically breaking him, but where's the creativity behind it? Sure, sometimes he figures out Batman's identity or learns ways to capture his allies to lure him out, but a pretty damn high number of villains, including ones in the Arkham series, have also done exactly that. It's rare to see a villain challenge Batman's resolve in the way that Bane does in Arkham Origins, putting him into an otherwise impossible scenario that any other person would have crumbled to dust under, especially one who just watched his father figure die. He was expecting Batman to have turned his grief watching Alfred die in front of him with nothing he could do into a titanic rage that would be ready to kill him on sight. He was fully ready to die right then and there if it meant Batman broke his code and became a killer. That said, that doesn't mean he's going down without a fight. Even if he's ready to lay down his life for his cause, he's not going out like a little bitch either. This final fight against Bane is, to be honest, not that good. There are a lot of very easy strategies that you can use to make this supposedly difficult battle a complete breeze. But that's neither here nor there. What we're talking about is the story stuff. This fight is Bane's absolute final gambit, This is his final chance to kill the Bat, and he will throw absolutely everything he can at him to get his chance, no matter how dangerous. Because this fight actually does the opposite of what Hotel Bane did. Rather than show off his restraint in order to keep himself alive, this fight showcases his unyielding will to see his mission through. And we see this particularly through one minor detail. Bane always immediately reactivates Venom. I mentioned earlier how he didn't do this in the hotel fight because he likely saw it as a point of failure for either his pumps or for his body. And taking the slower approach to the fight, even if it were more dangerous, was the smarter play in the long run that kept the fight going for so long. During the Blackgate fight, however, he completely forgoes this safety measure and keeps the venom flowing throughout the entire fight, immediately reactivating the pumps after Batman disables them. This is incredibly dangerous, but is ultimately a gamble that he needed to take. He understood how Batman fought now and realized that his prior strategy wasn't going to work, especially because of the circumstances he put Batman into himself. Having believed that he just killed Alfred, Bruce's only companion, he expected Bruce to be running on pure adrenaline-fueled rage straight at him, ready to take him down even faster than before. And to his credit, this gamble initially pays off. He's able to overpower Batman really easily, even pulling off his signature backbreaker on the man before being right on the verge of killing him.
May you find the peace in death that you did not find in life.
His massive boot is right on Batman's throat, and it doesn't seem like there's anything Bruce can do to get out of this. And if this were any other Batman, he probably wouldn't. But since this is Arkham Origins Batman, he has the shock gloves, which are exactly what he needs to temporarily overpower Bane and cheat his way out of the game that he and Joker set up. One other interesting detail about this fight is how Bane's health bar works. It's different from the hotel battle because of his constant use of Venom. Since he's technically always on Venom, there's no way for him to take damage. In other words, he's immortal. And yet, every time we rip out the Venom pumps, his health still goes down. Because this isn't really Bane's health bar, it's his Venom system. Rather than slowly wearing Bane down in this fight, we're just breaking his pumps until he's no longer able to use Venom. Which more than anything showcases how much Bane was relying on Venom for both of his fights with Batman. Because as soon as those pumps are destroyed, Batman almost instantly stops Bane's heart and wins the fight. It shows that even though Bane was absolutely a massive threat in this game, most of that threat came down to using surprise tactics and Venom. Despite all his power and training, he was still no match for the Batman. He always underestimated him. And his underestimation continues as Batman pulls an Uno reverse and instantly resuscitates him, making this killing gambit ultimately worthless. When he pops up, he doesn't waste any time and gets straight to business, sitting up like a horror movie villain and instantly grabbing Batman by the neck. And then he pulls out his final trump card.
You leave me no choice, Mr. Wayne.
When Bane injects himself with TN1, he says that Bruce left him no choice. Which means that he very much did not want to do this. TN1 was Bane's absolute last resort, and seeing as Batman outsmarted their game, the only option that Bane had left was to try breaking the Bat with his most dangerous weapon. He knows the risk of TN1 in its current state, and while he may be granted unbelievable strength and resilience for a short period of time, he'll also be left with long-term amnesia and a decayed brain. But it's a risk that he has to take, because his Venom pumps have been all but destroyed during the previous fight. And he knows that the only way he stands a chance against Batman would be with Venom. So, he does the next best thing and injects TN1, instantly turning him into a hulking, nigh unstoppable monster. The final fight against TN1 Bane is the final showcase of what Bane is capable of, mostly due to the fact that he still retains his intelligence throughout the fight. Other test subjects that used TN1 suffered its mental effects near instantaneously, becoming, as Bane put it, primitive in a matter of seconds. Bane, however, is so mentally strong that he's able to resist these effects and partially maintain his composure throughout the fight, as he adapts to Batman's tactics attempting to take him down, destroying grates and vents, constantly watching his back to avoid sneak attacks, and always being ready to attack Batman on sight, even temporarily feigning defeat to lull Batman into a false sense of victory before ambushing him and absolutely wrecking him, beating on him so hard that he ends up flying through a wall that Bane himself wasn't strong enough to charge through full force. Bane is pulling absolutely no stops during this fight, because he knows that this is his absolute final chance. If he doesn't break the bat here, he will never get another opportunity, because his mind will be wiped, and all the progress that he made in his investigation and invasion will be lost. He absolutely needs to succeed in breaking the bat here, or he will never get another chance. And unfortunately for him, he did not. Batman was simply able to outsmart and outbreak him around every corner. He frankly never stood a chance. Bane is ultimately defeated and strung up to be arrested. He's left a bumbling mess who can barely form a coherent sentence, saying that he will find and break the Batman.
Must find Batman.
With that.
It's only been a few minutes, and TN1 has already taken full effect, essentially wiping Bane's memory. Bane doesn't remember that he discovered Batman's identity, possibly even that he fought Batman at all, and the previous complete genius who was outsmarting Batman at every turn has now degraded into a bumbling caveman. This would, unfortunately, persist throughout the rest of the series until he gets clean in Arkham Knight, and Bane was simply never the same since. Honestly, it's for the better, because I'll take those mediocre versions of Bane every day of the week if it means we get this absolute monster with the single best Bane story ever produced. Arkham Origins made Bane interesting. Before this, he was just big man with moderately big brain. He barely did anything to stand out from the crowd aside from the statement of fact that he's stronger and smarter than anyone Batman has ever faced. And just saying that a character is something without actually backing it up is not how writing works. Arkham Origins took both of those factors about Bane and used them to create a unique threat for Batman to take down that was able to affect him from both the physical and mental side. And I feel no shame in calling him the only good version of this iconic character. With that being said, do all of the YouTube stuff, because I think I'm about to be broken for saying such mean things about Bone. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later, chaps.
I've long waited for this moment. With your death, I will find peace.